Welcome to the Beyond Bound Coach and AD Professional Development Series, a weekly online professional development for athletic administrators and coaches. Join us as 6 former ADs now employed by Bound and with over 100 years of combined experience discuss topics important and beneficial to ADs and coaches. Join us on this journey of professional growth. We're here to help you take your coaching and athletic administration to the next level and beyond.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Bound Professional Development. Friday morning, glad to have you join us, whether you're looking at this on Friday on your weekend or sometime next week. We're excited to have you join us and share a little bit about our experiences and hope it is beneficial for you as ADs and coaches out there as well. Good morning, guys. Glad to have you join us this morning. Thanks for being on. We're going to jump right in here to today's topic. Just a reminder what we're about, I guess. Before I do that, the idea of this thing is just to be a quick hitting professional development for you. We hope what we talk about here today is something you can put some thought into and implement into what you're doing day to day, week to week within your system, your team, your organization, without a lot of extra work. But we also know you're busy, so hope to make this a quick hit Friday morning professional development for you, and that works out in your program. So today, guys, we're going to talk about standards of excellence. And something I came across several years back, and really tried to work hard at Kennedy High School to put this in place and change our mindset to talking about standards of excellence. And we're going to talk about those today. So we'll talk about what they are. We'll talk about why I believe more in building and developing standards of excellence rather than rules, regulations, and policies within the system, or for you individually or personally. And then throw this out at the end. We'll see if some people might be interested in taking a standards of excellence challenge, maybe a little bit of homework, and see if people wouldn't be willing to take this to another level and see how you might implement this in your day-to-day personally or on your team, within your department, et cetera. So let's get better together here. First of all, what are they? I'm gonna start this by saying I may be doing this out of order, but the idea of taking on vision and mission maybe is something for a different day, a different topic. So you would want to start developing standards of excellence within your program after you've had those conversations and done the hard work of setting a vision or a mission, either for your team, for you personally. So this is going to be step 2 on that. So or after you set maybe season goals. So your team has met, you talked about what your season goals are going to be. These are things we want to try to accomplish as a team this year, or this is the vision of our athletic department. This is the mission of our basketball program, soccer program, et cetera. After you've established and had those tough conversations and really done that, then the next step is going to be, well, how are we going to get there? And that's where standards of excellence is going to fit in. That's where setting standards of excellence will fit in for you, is what choices, what behaviors, what actions can we take either individually or collectively as a team or as a system to reach those goals, to enact that vision, to make that mission become a reality. And so that's where this step would come in that process. But what are they? They are levels of acceptable behaviors or choices that you're making within your system that are going to facilitate that vision, that mission, those team goals being achieved, actually coming to life. In a team setting, these are going to be something you're going to build collaboratively rather than the coach or the AD, kind of sitting in a room by themselves and saying, hey, these are 3 or 4 things that are really going to drive us forward, and this is what we're all going to do. These are more about a we and us mentality. You want to sit down, have conversations, and collaboratively come to, these are the 3 or 4 standards that we're going to set for ourselves. This is where we're going to set the bar for ourselves in our day-to-day operations that is going to drive us forward on our goals, drive us forward on our vision becoming a reality. So team setting, this has got to be collaborative. And you'll see why here as we get going on this. The other thing I love about standards of excellence is this: they are going to highlight the power of choice. They are going to highlight how the choices of the team, choices of an individual within that team are, like I said, either driving you forward or holding you back as you're trying to reach those goals. I love it because it gets into the accountability piece, and I'll talk about that a little bit as well as we get going. So that's what they are. Just some examples maybe on this, and I will be honest with you, I don't think that I would have termed these standards of excellence back in the day, but when I was teaching in the classroom, these were my standards of excellence. I didn't talk about them that way in terms of standards of excellence, but that first day of class, kids walk in the class, and they're expecting you to sit down, give me this, you give them that big sheet of paper that's got like, here's the rules of my classroom, and you talk about all those things, right? I had these things on the board. Of course, as back then it was still, I think, maybe it was a whiteboard then. Could have still been chalkboard. Definitely wasn't a. What do they have in the rooms now? Anyway, this is what was on the board when we came in. This is all we cover. I said, hey, look, here's how you're gonna be successful in my classroom. You're gonna be where you're supposed to be, which means you're gonna be on time. You're gonna be ready to go when you get there. You're gonna do what you're supposed to do. When we get to class, we're gonna try to do some things that are gonna use science as a platform, chemistry, biology as a platform to help you be better. So we're gonna do what you're supposed to do to the best of your ability every day, and you're gonna act the way you're supposed to act. You're 14, 15, 16-year-old people. You know what's right and wrong. Act the way you're supposed to act. If you can do those three things day in and day out in my classroom and beyond, you're gonna be successful. You'll be better at the end of the day than you were at the beginning of the day. And that's all we covered. I didn't talk about all that. You can't chew gum, you can't have your phone out, you can't, X, Y, and Z. I didn't give them a bunch of rules. I said, if you do these three things every day, you'll be successful in my classroom. And that was what we talked about. Lou Holtz has his three standards. I thought I'd share those here. This is, if you ever heard Lou Holtz talk, you didn't hear him talk without hearing these three things from Lou Holtz over the years. Do right, do everything to the best of your ability with the time you have to do it that day, and show people you care. If you do those three things every day, according to Lou Holtz, you will be the best version of yourself in the day out. You'll be getting better every day. So they don't have to be complicated. They can just be simple bars that you set every day that you're going to work to meet. And if you meet them, then you're carrying out your vision, you're carrying out your mission, you're getting better every single day. We spent time at Kennedy with my coaching staff. We spent a good amount of time developing our coaching staff standards of excellence. I put that work up here on the board. So we came up with 4. We narrowed it down to 4 standards of excellence. Now, when you're setting these standards of excellence, you want to have a standard, and then you want to describe what it is. You don't want to have any questions within your system in terms of what does that mean. So one of ours was be relentless. Well, we wanted to define what be relentless meant. And so we spent a lot of time talking about, everybody shared their idea of what that word means. And then we kind of narrowed that down to pursuing your best every day, being committed to your kids, your sport, your school, best attitude, great effort every single day, and make sure that we're taking time to enjoy what we're doing, experience the joy of it. That's what being relentless every single day meant to us. And so those are our 4 standards. Be relentless, relationships, be easy to please, hard to satisfy, and if not me, then who? And we felt as a coaching staff, if we could live up to those expectations day in, day out as a coach, then we were driving our programs forward to enact our vision, our mission, so that we were a platform building great leaders through basketball, soccer, show choir, whatever it may be. And so those were our standards of excellence we built as a coaching staff. So there's just a few examples that you can kind of go off of. So I know there's a lot of stuff on here, but I'll just kind of hit this quick. Some of the differences and why I believe setting standards of excellence is going to be more effective for you than setting a bunch of rules, policies, and procedures. For one, as we talked about before, standards of excellence they're an agreed upon collaborative set of behaviors or the way we operate that's facilitating either you as an individual or facilitating your team to enact their vision and mission. A set of rules is simply say, this is what's allowed, this is what's not, which sets up the idea that standards of excellence are positive in nature. You're talking about, if we can do these things, we're going to achieve great things. When you're talking rules, policies, and regulations, and you're talking about what you can and can't do, they're punitive in nature, usually. I love the shift in ownership, and I'll wait to the next slide to kind of hit that again, but this gets back into when I talked about horizontal leadership before. Setting standards of excellence shifts the ownership and the accountability for, are we living up to the expectations we've set for ourselves on the individuals to collectively be doing that, where a set of rules is coming from the leader. The leader says, here's the rules. If you're going to be on my team, this is the way it's going to be and how it's going to be. If you don't like it, hit the highway. Well, that's coming from the leader. There's no buy-in there. That's not a collaborative system. The other thing I like about standards of excellence is when you have to address something, you're addressing choices and behaviors. You're not addressing the person in general. If somebody breaks a rule, breaks a policy, generally speaking, that's going to have a real personal feeling to it. And you got to have that conversation. You've broken the rule and you've let us down, right? Where it's, if you're talking about standard of excellence, say, look, we talked about being relentless every day, and that means we're bringing our best effort, great attitude every day. If you think about the way you've been going through practice the past couple of days, do you think you're living up to that standard? The choices you're making, it's the way you're practicing every day, meeting that standard that we agreed upon. Those are two very different conversations on that. And so that also leads, then I think I was just giving an example, the last one there of giving a nice support, a nice buffer to have tough conversations without it being personally attacking like you can get with rules and policies. And again, I think this shifts it to a shared collaborative leadership style in your system rather than being top down on that. It breeds horizontal accountability because you've all agreed upon those standards. So that's my quick spiel on standards of excellence and why I think that might be a better way to go, either personally or individually, is saying let's set a bar. And let's make sure that our daily behaviors, choices, and the way we operate daily is meeting that bar. And if it's not, let's figure out what we got to do to get to the bar and get over the bar on that. So a little challenge. I might throw this out there for people to think about. And if you've heard me talk before, you've heard me talk about there's a leading in process and getting better. There's a leading out process. And I feel like you've got to lead in first. So how can you as an individual become a better leader, a better person first? And then how can you use what you've learned about trying to lead yourself to try to lead others in your system? So I'm going to throw this out there and see what you guys think, but see if people want to do this. I would challenge you maybe in the next week, if this isn't something you've thought about before, what can you think of 3 standards of excellence you might want to set for yourself that's going to help you grow to be the person you want to be or get better in 2024 personally and professionally? You know, we talked about the one word process or setting, goals for yourself for the year. What are some standards of excellence, modes of operation that you need to set for yourself personally to be the kind of person you want to be by the end of 2024 that you've been thinking about? And then the second part of that would be lead out. Set aside some time with your team, your organization, whoever you work with, and can you come up with 3 to 4 standards of excellence that this is how we're going to operate day to day. This is the bar we're setting for ourselves when it comes to accountability, because we know this is going to drive us where we want to get to in 2024. So little challenge out there if you want to take that on, either personally or within the group that you lead, your team, your department. But with that, I'm going to pass it on to the team and get you guys' thoughts on this topic. So I give you guys ahead of time the order. So Todd Gordon, we're going to start with you today.
Back in the day when you had a chalkboard, if you remember, you used to have a corner of it where you would put a box around it and then write save so the janitors wouldn't erase the whole thing. If you didn't put save on it, we had custodial staff that would clean your whole chalkboard every day. So you had to make sure you had that spot on there and said save. This is outstanding stuff. You can't go back and change what you didn't know, but I wish I was starting my AD experience 20 years ago knowing what I know now.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just encourage ADs, again, to start. If this is something you've been thinking about doing, I wish I would have known about this earlier and would have been more proactive doing it. I think we talked about it. My mistake was I would set standards of excellence, but they were mine.
Mm-hmm.
They were my vision for the program and what I knew a successful program needed to look like. And then I tried to pass that down to the coaches and didn't take time to meet with them. And I would love to have heard conversations I could have had with coaches and leaders. I didn't always do that. And I did it during, but I didn't do it before. And I can't go back and change that. But if I could go back to the old Todd Gordon and tell him to do something, I'd tell him to do this and to take the time to meet with your coaches. And don't worry about the coach who's always going to have an excuse not to be there, because you're going to have those coaches.
Yep.
And eventually those people then are going to weed themselves out of your program because they aren't going to buy into those standards of excellence. And they're going to say, well, I didn't agree to that. You're right, you didn't. So maybe this isn't the place for you.
Yep.
And even if you're in a small school, and, you know, I was that small school AD where you were just begging for people to try and fill some coaching positions, I think things will work out. I think you have to hold your standards of excellence, whether you're at a small school or at a city school where you can have a ton of applicants for a position. Whether it's a quote unquote sport that a lot of people don't even care about, that you have trouble finding a coach for, or it's a sport that gets a lot of public, you know, support and a lot of public relations out there. It'll all work out. I just thought back to my kindergarten classroom where the only rule I had was the golden rule: treat others like you want to be treated. That was a standard of excellence.
Yeah.
You could always come back to that when you had conversations with young 5, 6, 7-year-old kids. You would come back to, you know, you said something. Is that how you would like to be treated? Well, no, I don't. Okay, then don't do it. And so that conversation was over.
Yep.
We've all had those standards of excellence, whether it's with our own kids or kindergarten kids in a PE classroom. And so I just go back to my first thought. I would just encourage ADs, young, old, even if you're old, it's not too late to start. And I think this is stuff that is outstanding. Thanks, Aaron, for sharing that. That's really good.
Yeah, you bet. That's good stuff, Todd. All right, Joey. We'll go right into somebody else who used to put save in the corner of their chalkboard, I'm sure.
You know I did. Yeah, again, great stuff. I'm going to echo something Todd said when he said that, you know, when we were young coaches and we had this list of rules, you know, what I didn't know. We all wanted our kids to be a team, but we didn't realize as young coaches is that we needed to be part of that team too, and they needed to be part of what we were doing. We wanted our kids to be unselfish, but we were a little bit selfish in how we went about structuring the culture of our programs as a young coach. And we just had ownership in the wrong place. I had ownership, but I didn't give them any ownership. And those are lessons that we, you know, experience is a hard teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's the best one.
Yeah. Yes.
Unfortunately, you learn the lesson after you need it.
Yeah.
Right.
But Aaron, you took one of my words away, punitive. You know, when you have that vertical style of leadership, we're doing things in a punitive manner and not in a productive manner. I had a wise AD once tell me that the more rules you have, the harder it is to enforce them. And then all you do is enforce them.
Yep.
Because somebody's going to break a rule. And then you have to be punitive because you have a rule, you broke it. And just like you said, whereas if you have those standards, now you're having discussions, you're having conversations that can build some momentum and help you get better to meet those standards. So yeah, great stuff.
Yeah. You know, you say that, and it's tough because you can look at this from a standpoint and say, well, yeah, the 13, 14, 15-year-old kids really understand, you know, what they need to understand. Well, no, they don't.
They can learn.
They can learn. And think of the learning that happens when you're sitting there talking about trying to set a standard and why we would set that standard of excellence and how that's going to be beneficial to us. If you just give them a rule and say, be on time, which is 10 minutes before practice starts, and they never have a part of that discussion in terms of why is that an important habit and how does that set us up for success so they understand it. They're just saying, well, coach is trying to get 10 more minutes out of me. And so the learning, like you're talking about, we miss out on it.
Exactly. You know, when we were kids, you know, I'm going to go back in the day, we didn't need the why. We were told what to do and we just did it because that's the way it was. But today, kids need the why. And coaches too, because those coaches, you've got young coaches, they need the why.
Yeah. Agree. Thanks, Joey. Appreciate it. Mr. Jarvis.
Well, Aaron, thanks for sharing this today. This is awesome. One thing I think about when you talk about this, and you did such a great job of putting this together for Kennedy, it's excellence is never an accident. It is always, we talk about how intentionality is so important. And when you have standards, it's always a result of high intention and that effort. And then just, you got to execute it. And I go back to what I hear, Mr. Gordon say, you just need to start, you need to execute. It's not going to be perfect. There's always going to be room for growth, but at the end of the day, excellence is not by chance, but it determines where you're going to end up. And I think that's one thing that I love about having that standard. Think about that standards versus rules, and how you progress. And you were just talking about that, how we progress as a team, how we innovate as coaches, for those standards versus rules. What's that different? Rules set those boundaries, but standards inspire us to elevate, above probably what we're even capable of achieving. Rules will dictate the what, and standards challenge us to explore. And to Joey's point, they kind of challenge us to explore that why. How are we better because of our standards? The rules establish like a baseline, but standards kind of propel us, to pass that. And so in our kind of world of athletics, we're in this crazy kind of nuts kind of environment where winning's so important. But I think those standards kind of spark what could be possible. It sparks the creativity. It's encouraging. It's always that continuous improvement. So those standards of excellence, there's not just goals. They're a commitment to getting better. And that's that growth mindset, like Aaron, like you talked about, that transforms those challenges into opportunities. So it sparks those discussions that you talked about, Joey, Todd, Aaron. It's those rules don't spark the conversation, but the standards do. So that mindset, for elevating our teams and how we, aspire to excellence. And we always say that it's not the destination. It's not that, product, but it's the journey. So thank you. This was awesome, Aaron. Thanks. I always love when you share this, because I know how much work you put into this, and how, I know I stole stuff from it. And I know a lot of other ADs did too for their student athlete advisory council. So thank you.
Yep, you bet, Scott. Thank you. All right, Brian Peterson, batting cleanup.
Yeah, that would have been a mistake, by the way, put me batting cleanup. But hey, thanks for sharing, Aaron. Really good stuff, and mine's racing. I love how you start off talking about, well, just the idea of excellence included there. And Todd tells a story about being a kindergarten teacher. I hear a lot of my wife's classroom coming out. She teaches 5th grade, and she asks kids questions a lot. Is that who we want to be? And I just apply that across this. That's just a standard. Who do you want to be? Who is it that we want to be excellent in life? It doesn't matter what skill or traits you have. You want to be excellent. And so I think the big piece there is just that power of choice. Giving them that choice to be excellent is the key. And that's what standards allow you to do. You make decisions. And without that, you have, I think a classroom's a lot here, but teams apply, businesses apply, adults apply. It's across the board. But without that, you just have all willy-nilly. If you don't have a standard, you just have people flying, doing whatever they think is best. And you think about that young teacher, all of us educators here, that's just in way over their head because they've set all these rules, and they are spending their day addressing. And, if it just take it back, how do you want your classroom to look? You want that classroom to be excellent. How do you want it to look? I think the other thing I'll say about good coaches, about good athletes, about winners, and winners doesn't mean that you win every time you go out, but winners in general, they crave standards of excellence. I listen to you talk. They want, the best coaches I ever worked with, they wanted to get better. They wanted that standard. And so, I was sitting at a basketball game last night, and a parent came up and asked me a question about some standard that I had set Actually, it wasn't a standard. It was why can't we have posters? Why can't we have senior banners? And I just said, we have a standard that the team is ahead of self. The team is ahead of self. And that's why we don't put banners up we're not glorifying seniors all season long. That isn't the goal here. It's about the team. Now, senior night, absolutely. Let's hang posters. Let's blow it up. Let's do it right. But our standard was team ahead of self no matter what.
Yep.
And what are we doing if we're hanging posters in our gym for our kids? That's the only reason we did it. I wasn't mad about it. And so this mom was asking me about it, and I tell her that, and she goes, "Oh, I never thought of it that way." That is a really good way of thinking of that. And so that's just something little, but it's happening every day in everybody's organization. So and Aaron, lastly, your Kennedy, easy to please, hard to satisfy. Love it. I could talk about that all day. I think that's the best thing in the world for coaches to be told when they're young. Be easy to please, but hard to keep satisfied with whatever your sport you're in or whatever you're doing. So thanks for sharing, Aaron. It's awesome.
You bet. That's I got that from Rod Olson when he came, the easy to please, hard to satisfy thing. And I just love the idea and make sure your people know, hey, I'm proud of you. I'm excited about what you just got done. I'm excited about the step forward you just took for what we accomplished as a team, but then immediately and here's what's next. So that you're constantly moving forward. I love that. Resource, you made me remind me of it, Brian. A great book to read on this process a little bit is The Gold Standard. It's Coach K's book that was written kind of about the dream team and kind of setting that one of the and it wasn't the dream team. It was the Getting It Back team that Kobe was on after we lost. We got the bronze medal in 2004. So I think this was 2008, and they set standards of excellence. And one of their standards was play great defense. And the two of the things they put in there is, well, what does that mean? That we're stand for is we're diving for every loose ball and we're running back on defense every time. And so they could then call each other out on that. It wasn't like, hey, Kobe, you're being lazy. It's like, hey, Kobe, we said we were diving after every loose ball, and you just walked or just ran to that. You didn't dive for that loose ball. You're talking about the choice and the action. You're not calling Kobe lazy, which would never happen. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's Coach K talk about that process and how he used this process to take all the egos in the room and get them to buy into one philosophy, one goal, what they're trying to accomplish on that. So that's a great resource, is The Gold Standard by Coach K. So, hey, guys, great discussion today. Appreciate your time. Again, for you guys out there watching this, guys and gals watching, hope there's something in here you can pull away from this and use that to make either you personally better or your department, your team, et cetera. And if you decide to take that challenge on that, best of luck on that. And if you want to reach back out to us, let us know how that's going. We'd love to hear about it. So thanks, everybody, and have a great day.